Welcome to Building Balance, the podcast where we help young men build fulfilling lives through self leadership, relationships, and personal growth. Today's guest is someone who has spent over 3 decades helping people and institutions rethink how we define success. Dr. Werner. He's a globally respected academic, leadership strategist, and speaker who's worked with universities and companies across Europe, the US, and Asia. His focus? Helping people grow, not through fear of perfectionism, but through clarity, purpose, and trust. In this episode, we explore what it means to lead, not just in boardrooms and classrooms, but in our own lives. How do we stay grounded when the world keeps changing? How do we pursue excellence without losing ourselves? And how can young men lead with integrity, not ego? So let's get into it. Dr. Werner, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for your kind and gracious words. We always have to be also honest to ourselves. We are all on the journey. We are not perfect yet. If we understand our God-given identity, it becomes sort of a journey, progress, advancement, progress. So I would say we are all on the journey, but we really have to learn and discipline ourselves to make the best out of it and also leave a good role model to this world. Okay, thank you very much.
That's very humble of you. So thank you so much. So before we get into the questions that I've prepared for you, I'd love to for our audience to know about a little bit about you. So if you could introduce yourself, your background
Yes.
for our audience.
Very briefly, I'm German originally. Through a dream, I came to America at some point. I'm married. My wife is American or US citizen. She's now living with me in Germany. Currently, I prepare some professorships. I had yesterday a really nice interview, very interested, and also prepare a startup in platform where I combine higher education and people and regions. So this is still sort of in working process, but I got recently accepted at Warwick Business School for a startup program. And you see, you can start at any age, whether you are young or a bit more senior, if you believe, if you have a God-given vision, and if people believe in this venture as well. Thank you very much. So that's a couple of words to myself.
Thank you, thank you. So let's start from the beginning. You've worked with the institutions and leaders across the globe, but what first shaped your views on leadership?
Yeah, early in my career, I was always thinking I have to perform for everything. I have to prove myself. This depends a bit also on my generation. Baby boomers are usually, they prove first before they advance. So that is contrary to the Gen Z who are already after 3 months vice president or CEO. So leadership meant performance. But at some point I noticed that some of these people, they looked exhausted. They looked tired and they did not look happy. They drove all the fancy cars in Germany, a Porsche. And then I said to myself, I do not want to become like this. Later in life, I want to stay happy. And so what I did, I noticed people often are outwardly successful, and I was on this way as well, but inwardly they are exhausted, they are empty. So and I decided, and this was at my late 20s, to reconnect with my spiritual values. And from that point, I see leadership as service, not as status. So it does not matter how young you are, you can approach me. And if I am out of my ego, I will give you at least some words of encouragement. Not like some of when I was young, I looked up to people and they would not talk to me. They had a great university degree. They were accomplished, so it seemed, but they would not share this.
Uh,
Recently, I had this event happening to me. I was very fast-paced, very accelerated, and I hit my toe against a piece of furniture in the dark, broke it. So this slowed me down, and for a week I had to walk on 2 crutches. My wife helped me, and what did I do? What changed a bit my life? I stayed calm instead of now being upset about the situation and thinking what now for 6 weeks they told me you cannot walk properly. And what I did, I just focused on the positive and said, God, there must be a reason. And it slowed me down. Uh, and it reminded me leadership is how you carry struggle with perspective, not panicking.
Yeah.
So my thought life would say, my God, 6 weeks you have to go to Italy and England. What is when you cannot walk? But then I said to myself, I do not believe the 6 weeks. I can do this within 1 week. And after 1 week, I found a solution. I got rid of the crutches. I don't wear shoes at the moment. But now it's the fifth week, I can walk. And
Nice.
people told me originally it takes 6 weeks, but again, my wife supported me for a week. I felt really decades older, but through mindset and through being grateful in this situation, the healing came really faster than what the doctors had in mind.
Amazing. And I think belief does a lot of wonders, right?
Yes,
So you worked across Europe, the US, and Asia,
yes,
academic leadership and executive education. What
yes.
personal or professional moment shifted your thinking around leadership and connection?
Yeah, as I stated, of course, you look into the outside and you look into the inside, and we are all, I would say, in process. And when I look into inner struggles, what leaders carry, they try to imitate at some point, but this is actually a mistake. If you imitate, it's good to learn, to gain leadership skills, to look into research, to do self-improvement, leadership development, but you should remain authentic how you are. Because if you try to copy, then there is no second person like you. So my advice or also my insight was, though you might feel sometimes isolated when you have a big vision, big dream, and you are very careful with whom you share the vision, because you always have two sorts of people. One group says this is all nonsense, and another group discovers it, but sometimes the vision is years or decades ahead of you, and therefore then you might be at this point where you feel temporarily isolated, but you can never give up. And once you understand how to align to the ultimate purpose in your life and match your actions against these values or with these values, then you start leading yourself first. I mean, you have to change yourself. Instead of looking at the outside, you have to focus not when you are seen only, but in every moment of your life to work on yourself. You have to discipline yourself, and then eventually you experience this exactly in the outer world. Let me give you an example, a very practical example. I remember one of my jobs in the US, I would always say, I'm excellent. What I'm doing is excellent. I'm a person of integrity. And then years later, people say this about yourself. That being said, never listen to labels, what people give you, because they know only a short time of your life. It's like they see a photo. They don't know your life, your destiny. And therefore, what you have to do as a leader, you have to discipline yourself. You have to lead yourself. And then it comes sometimes, it takes a while before the inside becomes the outside. But then once you reflect and get this divine alignment, then at some point people will see it and people will say it. So, and young people often struggle with it because they have teachers, parents, or friends. They might see them at this moment as not perfect, and that can be words of life if people speak good stuff into your life, but it can be also hurtful if people label you because they see you in that frame where you currently are.
Yeah. Yeah. So, in your experience, when
Yes,
we talk about different people,
yes,
in your experience mentoring students and senior executives,
yes.
what are some of the biggest inner struggles leaders carry, especially those we don't see on the surface?
Yeah, so the inner struggles are usually, if you are on sea level, you are pretty much alone. And if you then share something or you share your struggle, you never know is it used against you? Yeah? So you have to come for the world across as know-it-all, have every piece together, but it's really not the truth. We all are human beings, whether you are a professor or CEO, you face at some point fear. Yeah, a fear of the unknown, fear of speech. Some people have problems to speak, but fortunately, I don't have this fear. But I notice if something, let's say a goal, let's say the outcome is tightly connected to this and you become performant, then you see you are not authentic and you try to produce something and that takes away your authenticity and your freedom and your, let's say, being relaxed. Let me give you an example. If I play a piano piece and I'm unobserved, I'm in sync, I get some really nice compositions. If now a person looks behind me and says, hey, it's good, then you are in this frame where you, of course, want to perform. And then when you perform, you might really lose this authenticity. And I mean, there are super performers. They can play all kinds of the classic composers, but they do not have this creativity. They can play technical perfect, but their soul or heart is not in it. And that's what I see sometimes with CEOs, are very mind-oriented, but the alignment, heart, higher purpose, or eternal values, and mind is in misalignment. And that leads then to the fact that people come across as very dry, very, they look aged, and they are not very happy.
Yeah, and is it the same for students?
It's the same for students. So I say to my students, I'm teaching bachelor's and MBA. I always say to my students, now I was on this trip, I wanted to have all A's when I started my bachelor. But now in my MBA, I have to understand there are always people, they are better than me. They might be better in a certain discipline, they might have better knowledge, they might have a better job, whatever. So I need to learn that my value does not depend on my grade. So and I say to my students, whether you have an A or a B or C or D, it does not define your value. It's just a snapshot in time. Who am I to judge you? I might have a serial entrepreneur in my class who might barely make it. Then there are students, of course, they are afraid. They come from immigrant families. They might, when they call you, they might not have the nicest background. Um, and you can see they are sometimes a bit embarrassed. And then they believe because I wear a suit or a tie, I have it all. And then I tell them, I was exactly in your situation when I was younger. Do not worry about your grade. It doesn't matter from where you come. It matters where you are going.
Beautiful, beautiful. And you speak often about aligning excellence and authenticity.
Yes.
What do you think? Why do you think so many people, especially high achievers, fall into this trap of performance over purpose?
Yeah, because we tend to compare us. That's a spirit of competition. That's, let's say, now in Asia, the same thing, because you have a lot of people there. I recently was in India. So people compete, and that's good. But you have to understand, if you collaborate and know there are opportunities for all of us, not just for a few elite people, then you start to collaborate. And this is actually what brings you further and faster to where you want to go. And the reason for that is that we are not always 100% in every area strong. So let me give you an example. If you now study for a bachelor degree, you might be a very good person in finance. And then you help somebody who might not be good in finance. And instead of thinking now, yeah, this person is not as good as you help that person and you might not believe how this can come back later to you. I used to help a lot of people in my doctorate, and I was very fast through the doctorate. And then afterwards, I still help people, and then people help me too. It comes back from different places. Then I did a global MBA, and believe it or not, one time a student called me and said, I want to give you this. And that student had me not knowing that I struggled in this subject matter, but I was so grateful. And I say, wow, this person doesn't know me, but this is when we are aligned. Then you get an idea, and I was not embarrassed, or I was very grateful. And now I have to be also honest. I did not finish everything with A,
Uh,
but my subject matters, fortunately, I finished very well.
and that defines that proves that you don't have
Yeah,
to be perfect at everything, right?
yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Please, you were saying
When
something?
I just say something, performance is good, but we are not machines or we are not robots. We are human souls or human beings. We make mistakes, but here's the point. I think whether you belong now to Gen Z or to any other generations, if you can choose between human being and computer, you probably choose human being.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about redefining success because it's
Yes.
everybody's after success, right? So,
Yes.
especially for young men, trying
Yes.
to their lives with intention. So, you've said before that happiness isn't a perk; it's a condition for performance. So, how do you define happiness in a leadership context?
Yeah, now happiness in a leadership, of course, if you work for a company or for an organization, happiness in leadership uh, is, of course, accompanied with success, that people see the value your company is giving to the market. Happiness is much more than just temporary success. It's about legacy building. It's about having the inner peace or gratefulness. Now, I was in banking, and at one point I got this big. I remember that I was in wealth management in Germany, and somebody said to me, I give you X amount of million D-marks. At this time, we had a different currency, and I buy you a really big apartment. You just have to bring some black money to Luxembourg.
Okay.
And of course, it was very tempting. I was young. I had my first master degree, and I went home and I reflected on it. And also inwardly, and here's a peace. I did not have peace. And then um, the stipulation was from this local company, I had to change my name. And years later, a few years back, I was thinking, if I had done this, they could have killed me before they give me all this goodies. And of course, I would have had havoc my whole career. So
Yeah.
sometimes and this is sometimes CEO phase, and we had those problems. If you do not have a core value, whether it's ethics, and you just want to be successful, cut corners, make big money or profit short term, then on the long term, your company is going downwards. So
Yeah.
what I do is I always say, of course, you have to have short-term success if you're in sales, for example, but you have to always think client-centric and think of what are the consequences.
Yeah.
Now, you might make short-term a great deal, but if it is not in the best interest of your customer, you don't have peace. You might get a big commission check, but 2 years later, you might lose that customer.
Uh,
So therefore, you might slow down a bit and invest in the customer. I did this in my last company. And then during the summer hole where there is not much business, I then got a phone call and I got a really nice ticket. You see, if you take care of the client and have happiness and peace, then it's coming back at some point.
yeah. Yeah, and it's always, I think it's, as you said, it's a smart and wise investment. And
Yeah.
if we talk about commercial value as well, so it does a lot of positive to your brand, right? When you focus on the customer.
Yes, and you have to also have good mentors and coaches. I mean,
Ah,
let me be honest, there's always this misperception. One is a self-made millionaire, billionaire, but this is not true. In academic, it's the same. You are not self-made. Your research or your outcome depends on the collaboration with a lot of other people. And I've seen humble leaders, they're very successful. And they are honest. They say, yes, I had the idea, but I didn't do it on my own. Uh, either a parent had or they had somebody encouraging, or an investor came in due season, crossed their path. So I always said as a doctor, it's not, I didn't do it myself. And I wrote it in my acknowledgement because all the researchers who helped me, meaning who completed surveys, who completed expert interviews, they are part of it. And of course, you need to incentivize them as well. So you are not taking all the glory to yourself. You share it, and you know that it's divinely inspired. You give them the glory back to God.
Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned in your notes that wise leaders are teachable, right?
Yeah, yes, yes, yes.
So how do we cultivate a growth mindset without falling into the pressure of needing to optimize everything?
Yeah, now, be honest, we have rhythm in life. We have very good days where everything goes phenomenal. And then we have unforeseen events happening. So we need to try to stay aligned, but calm also down. Uh, you know, take some periods to reflect. I mean, you can do it in the morning, have some silent time, meditate, or go for a walk. I'm not doing this every morning, but once in a while I do this. And then we have to also understand to treat other people respectfully. Now, look in a company, often we talk about human resource. We lay people off when the economy is going down, though they might be top talents, and then we cut corners and we don't really understand what we do in this case, how we treat those people, and it might come back at some point uh, to yourself or to ourselves. And you see this often in companies. So I always say it's very important. If you have a good company, treat your people respectfully. Do not exploit them, meaning do not let them work for 70, 80, 90 hours. A good indicator is the turnover rate. Very performance-oriented people tend to work harder and smarter. And sometimes I've seen this in my last company. People were sitting there from 8 in the morning to 9 p.m. in the evening, 100 hours a week. And at some point, those people face an high turnover rates. And the turnover rate is an indicator. Do you really treat people as you want to be treated according to the golden rule?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And let's talk
Yes,
about let's move from external leadership to inner clarity.
yes.
So the kind that shapes how we show up in relationships and in pressure. So many young men feel like they have to perform confidence.
Yes.
What's the difference between performing leadership and practicing it?
Yeah, very, very good. So it starts actually in yourself. I mean, all of us, whether you are young or old, or let's say rich or not yet rich, or let's say executives or job starters, we have the battle of the mind, what we think. So, and for example, I have the rules. I try to really create this mindset. I'm very wise what music to listen to. What movies am I watching? Of course, each of us sees at some point movies, let's say I like adventure movies. Yeah, I watch sometimes a Secret Service movie.
I do.
But what is very important is you need to train your mind. It's like going to the gym. I'm not going to the gym at the moment, and I'm not a gym person, but I do what a gym person does faithfully every morning. I do this with my mind. So, and nobody will do this for you. Yes, sometimes you have people who speak positively in your life. You get let's say, a praise or a good word, but you have to train your mind. Where do you want to go? And I think it's very important when you are young to hang out with the right kind of people. So you can help people, but you have to be very careful whom you elect in your inner circle. Yeah, I remember when I started with my bachelor degree in Germany, people, they were partying the first semester. And I said to myself, I have to be very careful of this goal. I have to finish this. So I ended up partying in the last semester for a couple of weeks when it was done. But I mean, it's good to have, to enjoy life. I'm not against this, but you have to discipline yourself. And if you have people, whatever you do, if you study, if you want to bring your company to the next level, if you work on some personal goals, you want to lose weight, as an example, you have to have discipline. And when you have people who hinder you to go there, then it's time to say graciously goodbye and move on. And I used to have in my surrounding, when I studied, I didn't have easy people surrounding me.
Okay.
So, but I learned later on in life, this is very, very important. Sometimes you have to change your friends, you have to change your neighborhood, but you have to work on yourself first. Meaning, it's like I do this every day. I do confessions for myself. What do I want to accomplish? Have big dreams. That's, I would say to young people, have big, big dreams. Think big. Now, if you do not have dreams, you can always ask to get some dreams. You can read some good inspirational books. You might meet some people on your university campus. So you have to have a goal.
Yeah.
Now, let me give you an example. When I was young, I was not very good in athletics. Reason was I lived far from the school and I didn't want to do this regularly, spending 3 hours in trains and so on. But then I said to myself, you got a D in sports, but you want to become a paratrooper. So you need to do some sports. And that started with discipline. And when I did this, I jumped out of the airplanes and helicopters, and people were thinking, wow, you are crazy. They saw me, of course, as this person, not very athletic, but I could achieve this in a few months. Yeah. And this is with learning too. I say to my students, if you have a D, this doesn't determine who you are. You can. And I have had students who started with D and they became top students. And so the only thing you have to have is faith and belief in yourself.
Yeah. And discipline.
That is very important. You have to have faith in God, but you have to also believe in yourself. Nobody can do this for you. You might have good parents, you might have good teachers who instill this in you. And I had those people partly too in my life who would encourage me. And that's very blessing to have. But you have to overcome this doubt. If you're young, you can say, if he or she has accomplished that, I can do this too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So very, very important.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. And well, when we talk about different ages of people, so
Yes.
executives and students. So you've taught across cultures from
Yes.
Germany to Vietnam. So what have you learned about how different cultures shape our emotional relationship with leadership?
Very, very interesting. There's actually a professor I think in INSEAD, France. She created what we call the culture map. And we come, of course, prejudgmental from one culture to the other. Now, when I came from Germany to America, for example, my cultural bias was I'm on time. And if I commit to a meeting, I'm expecting Americans to do the same.
Okay.
So the German culture is very structured and organized. If Germans commit, and this is a bit stereotype now, of course, then I committed today to this meeting and you reminded me, that's fine, but I had this written down and I would communicate if something else could have happened. Now in America, they pivot. They are very fast changing. Imagine you have an interview in America for a job, and I had an executive interview in Boston, and the person got sick, and they did not communicate this, and I traveled, and nobody showed up. Yeah, and that's for a German a no-go, but for an American it's okay. And you see the culture. There's no right or wrong because these are different cultures. Now Vietnam are very relationship-oriented, trust-oriented. Now, let me give you an example. I'm now American too. Now, I'm in the airplane, for example, and I talk to a Vietnamese person and the Vietnamese shares their whole life with me. And if I'm German and they ask me, do you have a business card or it's nice to connect, then I would, as a German, give my business card, connect on LinkedIn. If I'm an American, it's a bit stereotyped, I might leave the airplane and say, have a good day. And that person from Vietnam assumes they have gotten a friend because they shared all the personal stuff, family, kids, job. But the American just moves,
Yeah.
moves on.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
very, but when you understand these culture differences, then you come into alignment. And if you now translate this to to the political dimension, we would have probably less problems if we acted more culture oriented.
Yeah.
Now, another brief example, when I came to India, my German culture would say, okay, you deliver by sharing a presentation or documents with other professors. For Indian people, that didn't matter at all. For them, it was important to go with them to dinner, etc. So you see the different cultures.
Yeah.
The Germans on the performance trip are very transaction oriented, and other cultures are very relation oriented.
Yeah. And it's I think it boils down to like different cultures giving value, weight to different things, right?
Yes. So
Somebody this is important, somebody thinks that is important. Yeah.
yeah, so when you are an executive and you are a leader, you cannot transfer your leadership style. Let's say you have an egalitarian leadership style, very democratic as a German American. You cannot transfer this to a culture which is very based on authoritative leadership. So you have to adjust to the culture in order to lead efficiently and effectively. But in our mind, we often think when we are now very democratic, mean egalitarian, this counts as good leadership style, but it really depends on the culture.
Yeah, yeah. And then that's how you not and then not just the culture from external point of view, but within your team as well. What culture you
Yes,
bring in there, and how do you navigate different types of people and where they come from, and all of
yes,
yeah.
yes.
Okay, so if someone is early in the journey, unsure, maybe anxious, what advice would you give on developing self-leadership without losing authenticity?
Yeah, read good books. Now, not everybody is a good reader necessarily, but if you're not a good reader, then watch good movies. Now, I recommended to my students recently, so that was 3 years before now the vice president from the US got elected, a movie which shows a bit how this vice president grew up. He
Okay.
was really on the way to destruction or failure, and he had a grandmother who turned his life upside down for the good.
Okay.
And so there are good movies. The
Oh,
McDonald's story,
this
for
one?
example. What?
What's the? I'm asking, what's the name of this one?
Yes, I have to look the name up,
Okay.
but it's about a venture capitalist, how he
Okay.
grew up. He grew up in very tough circumstances. His mother took drugs. They
Oh,
grew up in a very poor neighborhood. But his grandmother, when he was on the way, skip school, steal a pocket calculator, then his grandmother took him up and changed his life for good. And the other one is a McDonald's movie. I really like that McDonald's movie. I saw it on the aircraft. And so if you are flying now, let's say from Europe to Asia,
yeah.
don't watch just movies which are just entertaining, but look for movies, whether it is on Netflix or in the aircraft, that are based on a true story, if you're not a big reader, because these movies teach you very valuable lessons for life.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
If
Thank
you are a reader, I would say there are good leadership books on the market in every industry. I personally read for leadership Psalms and Proverbs
Okay.
based on King David and King Solomon. And
Okay.
I mean, they are not easy to read, but if you read them loud, after a while, they become alive, and then you understand and you act very wisely.
Okay.
I use this in consulting, and I was for half a year with a consulting group, and they said to me, wow, you're senior consulting, as a senior consultant, and you move like a partner, as a top level, and then they sent me to America, and currently I do this again. I mean, MBA knowledge or business knowledge is important, but you need to also have this aligned with spiritual knowledge.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going here into religion, but there are good books, universal, available. If you look into the books, you find always some really helpful gold nuggets, I call them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Golden rule.
Yeah.
Once you understand the golden rule, you use it,
Yeah.
but you have to learn it.
Yeah.
And in business, there are really good books as well. I mean, the whole MBA, I think most people go through an MBA to meet the right people, to start companies. Most MBA books, if you sum this all up, is probably $1,500 for the books you have to invest.
Yeah. 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 All right. Let's
Yeah.
close with a few quick fire questions.
Yes.
Just for fun and reflection. A moment in your career that deeply moved you.
You mean where somebody of my colleagues or students moved me or myself?
Any moment in your career that moved you, like that was very powerful for you.
Yeah, so recently I had a first generation student. Nobody in their family studied. And I got a call on a Saturday, and person was a bit bitter, saying you have it all together, but no. So, and then I encouraged the person, and that person recently got accepted in a master program. And I
Wow.
was very happy to see, I mean, from a D student to a really top level student.
Wow. Wow.
That was very moving. And then when I was in Vietnam, I got a nice handbook from my students after the week. Every student wrote something in what they experienced in class. And this was for me very, very touching. Although this book I have here, and and there were also some critical students in the beginning who changed their mind. They were excited afterwards, and that was the best gift I ever got in Vietnam.
Nice, nice. And a book or idea that changed how you see leadership.
Yeah, as I said, what I do, I read every day now. Sometimes you have those periods. I read currently Psalms and Proverbs loud. This is royal knowledge originally. It's not about that you have to understand everything, but when you hear it after a while, it changes your behavior. It impacts your behavior for good. And that's the same if you read now a leadership book where you are inspired. Then it becomes alive. It's not just book knowledge, which you place them back. So it's not the quantity you read, it's you really have to get the quality. And
Yeah.
when you internalize this, it changes your behavior for good. So I can definitely also recommend good books, positive books, whether it is in negotiation, in marketing. There are some really good books where you can learn. And once you internalize those concepts, you can replicate them in any dimension. For example, SWOT analysis, strengths, weakness.
Yeah. Opportunities, threats. Yeah.
Once you understand this, you can transfer this for your application, job application process. How do you select now business partners? How do you, build your inner circle?
Yeah.
So these concepts are gold nuggets.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. This is a very good insight because a lot of people struggle with reading books because they don't get it the first time. So this approach is it's really interesting to read new literature. So thank you for that. So one daily habit that helps you stay grounded.
Yeah, currently I do a lot. I get up currently at 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning.
Nice.
And then I just meditate a bit. Yeah. And I'm not doing this every day. It's not a law, but when you get early up, then, you use the time and then you are ready to sit at the desk at 7 a.m. in the morning. But then I go also now, not like before 8 a.m. in the morning to bed, but before midnight. And then what I try to do is to use this silent time. Yeah.
Okay.
to reflect, to get some ideas what I will do. And I get ideas, and when I get ideas, I write them down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Nice.
it's like a creativity booster.
Yeah, and
You can also go for a walk, get some fresh air. If you have, let's say, if you live in the country, you can do this.
yeah, yeah. And one interesting one that I ask
Yeah.
everyone, what would your 25-year-old self be surprised you're doing today?
Now, I would have never imagined that I would immigrate to the US, that I would become a professor in India, Vietnam. I would have never imagined this. I wrote at some point in a diary, I would like to write a book. Yeah. But so I never imagined that I would do so much international stuff. I was thinking I stay in Germany. Yeah. And another thing is always when I was young, a dream was to have a mentor to prepare me for business. And I didn't have this really.
Okay.
And now I became a mentor at my last business school for others. And now, thank God, and I'm a bit older than you. Now, during Warwick, I had a mentor, a C-level mentor who really challenged all my upcoming decisions. And you know what? Why I'm saying this? It's never too late. Some people have this earlier in their career. I had it a bit later.
Yeah.
I used to be very independent, meaning I would do this all by myself. It's very good to have good coaches, good mentors, and I have this, thank God, also for a few years now, and that helps me also to progress. You have to have accountability, whether it is in your family, let me say this, in a company. And that's sometimes very difficult for C-level people because of this competitive spirit. They have to perform, they cannot really be authentic. So they hire somebody from the outside of the company. But it's good to have this network in place.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Nowadays, for example, I mentored sales, also he's a sales director academically. And so when you help others, at some point people help you too. And now I have a C-level person helping me with a startup. I used to do that for others for years, but you have to have this accountability, responsibility system in place.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
And finally, for the young man listening who feels pressure to be excellent at all costs. So, what's one message you'd leave him with if he's trying to lead, grow, and still be true to himself?
Yeah, now, first of all, find your God given or divine identity. Avoid comparing yourself with others. If you see that people are better off than you at this moment, because it's only a snapshot in time or like a photo, be happy for them. So you do not need to be perfect, but you need to determine what you want to accomplish. So do something you are passionate about, what you really like. You don't have to be perfect in it, but you have to. I mean, some people have one profession, have a portfolio of professions, but you need to be happy and then invest your time wisely.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
never ever let somebody stop you. I know I remembered I had very good teachers. I had some teachers too who were really not so supportive, but never ever let somebody stop you. If you have a business idea, write it down. It might not be the next year or 5 years. For example, when I immigrated to the United States, I worked for a consulting firm. I would every day say, in half a year, I will be in America because I knew this. And people would laugh at me. They would say, takes 5 years. And I was after half a year in America. After a year, I went to America. And then you cannot give up on your
yeah,
dream.
yeah. And
So
yeah, yeah,
so then help others too. If you have not accomplished that dream yet, help somebody else to accomplish. Then I would say invest your time wisely, focus on eternal values like being true, humble, and courageous. Also, don't look just to get applause. I mean,
yeah.
this is just short lived. I would say hang around with companions who are inspiring and wise.
Beautiful,
And
beautiful.
rejection will come, but rejection can be a milestone to accelerate you. Now, I had last year somebody, I was rejected, nearly tried to havoc my whole MBA dissertation. And you know what I did? I said, okay, I respect this, but I'm moving on. And now I meet all the people who said, wow, this is a phenomenal idea. We will publish this now. And so you have to overcome rejection. If you get rejected, it's always a good sign that God has something big for you. No matter if it is academically, if it's business, if it's in your family, you have to move on. Yeah, you
Beautiful.
can't give up.
Yeah.
And that's very much, I learned this a bit in America. Americans are very good. They never give up. And that's, I would say, this is more the American spirit or the mindset. And you have to understand, with faith, all things are possible. With God, all things are possible. If you can see it, if you have a vision for yourself, write it down. Be careful with whom you share your dreams. Yeah, you want to avoid dream killers. But if you have a dream killer, forgive, forget, let it go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah. Move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's very important. Very great advice.
Everything in life I got as blessing started always with rejection. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
So,
I would say
last sentence, life is reciprocal. What you give or invest in good in others at some point comes back.
yeah.
Whether it is in leadership, in your family, love, legacy, you have to always understand it's good to give and invest.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I
Yeah.
told you about this short accident recently.
Yeah.
My wife took care for me for 1 week. So,
This,
because you always have to understand life has ups and sometimes you have some unforeseen challenges and therefore try to be smart. Also don't do it alone. Don't isolate yourself. Always think in the big picture.
thank you. Thank you, Dr. Werner, for your
Yeah.
honesty and depth. And this conversation reminds us that real excellence isn't about control, it's about clarity. And it's not about being perfect, it's about
Yeah.
being present. So thank you for that.
And for younger people, one last thing. People used to look at other people when they are successful in their perception. You know, as human beings, we have ups and downs, but it's very important when you're having a bit tough time in life, you have to persist and move on. You can never allow things to stop you.
Yeah.
Whether it's a health challenge, whether you start off with your business or you work in a big corporation and you're in the beginning of the career, you have to persist, resilience, also be resilient, try to be diligent.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
pays off.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. And to everyone listening, trust isn't just a leadership
Yeah.
skill, it's a foundation for your life. Build it with yourself, nurture it with your relationships, and let it guide your growth. We'll catch you in the next one. Thank you for listening in.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.